deep dive on how PEBT will be available for immigrant families, since we know that's been a big question mark. And then we're going to go through some outreach materials and really enlist your help to continue to spread the word over the next couple of weeks. And we will be, as Kelsey said, taking questions along the way, and we'll also leave some room at the end for question. And I promise to follow up with everyone who asked the question if we don't get to it on this webinar. So with that, I'm going to start our slides, and I will turn it over to Mindy from ODJFS.
Thank you, Rachel. And I just want to thank everyone for allowing us this opportunity to speak to you and talk about PEBT. I want to say that the state of Ohio recognized the importance of PEBT pretty early on in the process. As soon as our federal partners told us about it, we realized how important it was to get our school-age children this additional funding. We had heard stories where a mother was working all day and she couldn't go and pick up her kid's lunch during the time allotted by the school. And so we knew how important this was. Some things that you should know about the PEBT is that Congress authorized it on March 18th, and we were approved on May 12th. And although that sounds like it's a long time from the time that Congress said, hey, you guys, go ahead and do it, and the time we actually got approval is because the process was actually pretty complicated. So we had to get our vendors all lined up. We had to get the data from ODE. We had to make sure that our approval was approved by FNS, so we had to get our approval ready, and guidance kept changing, evolving as the program changed. So although it seems like a long time, it's actually not. We were the 25th state approved, and in our area, and Betsy Suver, if you West, if you think there's additional things that I'm missing, please step in. We were one of the first in the Midwest area to receive it. So we understood it, and we were looking to make sure that our school children received it. The PEBT provides families the ability for an EBT card that can get them groceries. And it is for those children who are on free and reduced lunches. Those are the ones who will receive it, as well as those schools who have a certain percentage of children on free and reduced lunches, provide that money for all children in that school. Those children also receive it. So those children who are on SNAP and those who are not on SNAP, all of them will be receiving this money. It is around, and I think that's it's the next point. It is around $254 million we are bringing into the state of Ohio, which is phenomenal. And it's phenomenal for our children. And I don't think we can speak highly enough about that. So we believe about 60% of these children are currently receiving SNAP, and about 40% of the children live in non-SNAP households. So that's pretty much the overview of how this all occurred and where we were in it. All children who are eligible for free and reduced lunch will receive PEBT. We hope that these children, what we did with the data is that we got the data from ODE and we try to match it to our SNAP data to make sure that we were getting those children. So those children will receive the money on their SNAP card. However, if we were unable to match those children to a household, they are now going to get an additional card. So if that makes sense. So some of the calls that we are getting in today are, I only had one of my children on my SNAP card because some of the payments were issued last night, but I don't have the others. Well, chances are it's because we couldn't match that child for a variety of reasons. Maybe somebody goes by a nickname, and in our system, we have them by their full name. So there's a lot of caveats that we're kind of working through, but everybody should have their benefit by mid-June. But like I said, some of those were issued last night. You can go ahead on to the next slide.
And just real quick, Mindy, do you want to speak? I'll stay on this slide for a second to ask if you can speak to the issuance amounts, why there might be a different amount for the 2 months.
Oh yeah, so it depends on when the child was authorized to receive the free and reduced lunch. So if the child was authorized in March, at any point in March, they will receive it from the beginning of March all the way through to the beginning of June. If the child was authorized anytime in April, they will receive the amount from the beginning of April all the way until the beginning of June. This was a requirement by FNS, so that is how we had to do it. We couldn't pool all children that were authorized in April to March. We had to give them in the month that they were authorized in. So this kind of goes back to what I said. PBT cards will be issued in the child's name if they could not be matched to the household or if they are non-STAT families. And each family will get a unique PIN number, which they are used to call in the number, and they'll call in and they'll put in this unique number, and that's how they will activate the card. If the family does not want the card or they don't want the money, they are instructed to cut up the card. And I'm trying to see if I missed anything else. I think that is pretty much it. Betsy, anything?
Yeah, Mindy, I was just going to say that when they call in, the PIN that they're going to have to use is actually the four digits of their birth year. So they call in and they enter the number on the front of the card, they enter the zip code, the date of birth of the child, and then the PIN is the 4 digits birth year. And then they will be prompted to set a new 4-digit PIN number.
Thanks, Betsy.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important message to emphasize, because this, I think, to give credit, ODGFS was really nimble in this process of seeing that there were going to be some children who either didn't have a social security number or that wasn't known to the caregiver. And so going to with the last, the 4 digits of the birth year made it something that hopefully will be easier for more families to be able to pin these cards. Is that right, Mindy and Betsy?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, because typically it is the last 4 digits of the social security number of the person named on the card. So yeah, you're correct. We had to be kind of nimble and figure this one out. And so we went with the birth year.
And the other thing I think that I forgot to mention in the very beginning, Rachel, is that there is no application for this, and we did that on purpose. We wanted to make sure that we could get these benefits out as quick as possible. Had we done an application process, this would have delayed the money getting to the students. So we chose not to. We chose just to do a data match, understanding the complications that that would give for us, but knowing that that would be the quickest route to getting the money to the citizens. Okay, families will receive a flyer from their school's email, and the flyer is on the left side of your screen. The money on the card is good for 12 months. They do not need to be spent in a single transaction. They do not have to be spent by the child, the parent, or the caregiver. It could be spent by, used by someone else to help purchase the things necessary for that child, such as food. They cannot spend it on prepared foods, alcohol, toiletries, and other non-food items. That is the caveat to using it. And families, if they have questions, should feel free to contact JFS. I would say, though, that if you're going to contact JFS, I would wait to make sure that you're not going to get the card in mid-June. So I'd probably wait until mid-June before I would call JFS, unless you have some other indication that you don't think you're going to get the card or the money wasn't applied to your SNAP card.
Great. Let me make sure I can go. Okay, so I'm going to jump in here and start to do some FAQs, and I hope Betsy and Mindy, you'll chime in as necessary to answer some of these. So these are sort of the top ones, but I know we're getting some great questions into the Q&A too, so we'll do our best to hit some of those as well. So first off, I know Bridget is going to speak to this as well from the Ohio Department of Education, but PEBT benefits can be used in combination with picking up grab-and-go meals or summer meals from your school or from community sites, as you always did. So they can be used together. There was a question we've gotten about children who may have enrolled in SNAP in the month of May. Because of the way this program was structured, the kids who were already enrolled in March and April are going to get the PEBT benefit. Kids who are enrolled after that April date when they cut the data and it was approved by FNS are not eligible for PEBT at this time. The third question is a question, and this is a big one, about whether an outdated address is on file with the Department of Ed or with the school, or whether the child has moved. We know this has been there are lots of families who are in unsettled situations. And so I know the Department of Education is going to address this as well. But this is why we're so happy that JFS does have a customer service line and a way to contact them to let them know if you think the card is not going to reach the child. So that's kind of the first step to take if you are in that situation. We also have gotten questions about children who are homeschooled or attend a school that doesn't participate in the National School Lunch Program. So those children will not be eligible for PEBT. It is approved by the federal government as a replacement for those meals that they would have been paying for if the school was open. That being said, I think Mindy mentioned before, but I'll just reiterate that community eligibility schools, which are the schools that would have provided and were providing free or reduced price meals to all children in their district, because that's a more efficient way to provide service, that all the children in that district, in that participating school, will get PEBT. So even if they hadn't individually filled out a meal application. And I'll let the school district folks go into that a little further. I'm gonna go to a few more. So there is an age range on these for PEBT. Again, a lot of this stuff was not, were not rules that ODJFS, that the state came up with. This was federal guidelines that they are implementing. So in this case, PEBT is available for kindergarten through 12th grade students. Pre-K students or younger children who may be connected to a school district are not part of PEBT at this time. I will say that our U.S. Representative Marcia Fudge from Cleveland and a number of other lawmakers are hoping that younger children will get included in future PEBT efforts, and that is something that's already passed in the House of Representatives but hasn't been passed in the Senate. So we are going to be keeping a close eye on that. But for right now, it's K to 12, and it's children who are ages 5 through 20 who are enrolled in a school. So, you know, the 4-year-olds and younger are left out of that, but, you know, somebody who turned 19 in March and is a 12th grader would be included. This is a big one. If families have, you know, multiple children that go to their school and they're not part of a SNAP household, they should expect multiple cards. So that, as Mindy said, the fastest way to get this out was to go with the data that they got from the school for each individual child. And so if there are 3 kids in the family, you may get 3 different cards with the different child's name on it. That doesn't mean that the child does not have to be present to purchase food with that PEBT card, and any adult household member can use that card the same way a SNAP card can be used. So we can talk a little bit more about the SNAP, how the SNAP system works, but retailers are already pretty well familiar and understand that any household member can use an EBT card. It does not have to be the person named on the card. So hopefully that won't present a barrier for folks to use the benefits. And then let's see, we also have a question about whether this is available to immigrant children. Yes, just like free and reduced price meals, they're available to children regardless of immigration status. And like I said, we're going to be having a more robust discussion about that later in the webinar. So I'm going to pause and ask Kelsey if there are any other questions that have come in through the chat that you haven't been able to answer, and I will look as well here.
Absolutely, thanks so much, Rachel. A few that are here. We did have a question if a PEBT card can be used at a farmer's market that accepts EBT.
Great question. So yes, any place that accepts SNAP/EBT, you'll see signs that say, you know, SNAP or EBT accepted here. They can all process a PEBT card. It runs on the exact same technology rails as a normal SNAP card.
Can we make a flyer, or is there a flyer available to community agencies, churches, et cetera, to help spread the word?
Yes, great question. So there are some materials developed by the state agencies. We also have this collective of nonprofits, which I failed to mention at the beginning in my introduction, but there are a whole bunch of groups who have sort of ad hoc come together to promote this program, including Center for Community Solutions, the Ohio Association of Food Bank, Children's Defense Fund Ohio, Policy Matters Ohio, a whole bunch of groups that are on a website that I put are pooling materials on a website that's ohiopebT.org, and we'll spend a few minutes on that at the end.
All right, Rachel, last one for now, and then I can jump in later. Are PEBT benefits in addition to current EBT or SNAP benefits, even if a family is already receiving the max amount per family size?
I will answer and then let ODJFS chime in on that.
Yeah.
But yes, if you do, go ahead, Betsy.
Yep,
Yes,
yep. This is a completely different benefit and benefit amount. So it does not look at any kind of SNAP benefit they're in receipt of.
Yeah, and I think I've gotten the question of, some families right now are getting these what are called emergency allotments for SNAP. So maybe your regular SNAP benefit was $100 a month, but right now you're at the maximum benefit for your household size because of the pandemic. So maybe now you're getting $300 a month in SNAP. These benefits will go on top of that, and all of those benefits are available. Stay on your card for 12 months. So folks don't have to feel like they need to spend it all right away. They can stretch it out.
That's correct.
Okay, great. Any other burning questions, Kelsey, or we'll go ahead and move on to hear from Department of Education. Oh, sorry, I jumped ahead of my slides. I'm gonna stop.
Rachel, if you could, just one more. We have a couple of these in the chat. How will the envelope be identified? Folks are worried that families will assume it's junk mail and that they will lose that benefit. So how will the envelope be identified when it hits families' mailboxes?
I'll defer to Betsy or Mindy on that one.
I will have to look into that. Honestly, I can't remember. I always see the inserts. So, honestly, I'll have to get back to Rachel, get that out to everyone.
Great, thank you. Yes, we know that they are being mailed from the EBT vendor, so they will come I expect in this similar packaging to the way regular EBT cards are, but we can try to get a snapshot of what that looks like so that we can be circulating it and people can be on the lookout. All right, well, I'm gonna go and I took off my screen share for a second since I don't want to jump ahead, and introduce Bridget from the Ohio Department of Education.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm so glad to be here. My name is Bridget Hires, and I'm the Child Nutrition Program Manager at the Department of Education. And what that means is my office oversees the U.S. Department of Agriculture funded child nutrition programs in the state of Ohio. So that includes the National School Lunch Program, the School Breakfast Program, the Child and Adult Care Food Program, and the Summer Food Service Program. So why that's important is I just wanted to emphasize that with this PEBT benefit, that it does not preclude any households from going to summer sites. Summer sites will be up and running this summer. I know it's been obviously a very unusual year, but we have many schools and sponsors that are going to be hosting summer sites with summer meals this summer. So please do absolutely encourage households, and if you're a household, take advantage of those opportunities for summer meals. By getting PEBT, it does not stop a household from going and participating. So Department of Education was extremely pleased and proud to be part of the PEBT process and collaborating with Jobs and Family Services to make sure that this opportunity was given to Ohio households. We're so proud and pleased that it was approved. We've been sending messages through our email communications to our schools for flyers. I know that there was a question I believe that was raised, is the flyers available in multiple languages? And they are. We have an English, a Spanish, and a Somali version of the flyer available on the Department of Education website. And I know all our community partners are going to be talking about the awesome resources that they are also putting together. But those are available on the Department of Education website, and we're sharing those with our schools to then share those with households in their school districts. I know some have sent them by email or part of their email newsletters, and some have sent them or posted them on their websites. And I know we're going to hear from Cincinnati Public Schools on their marketing efforts for PEBT here in just a moment. We're also going to be sending out messages to our superintendents and administrators to, again, continue the efforts for marketing for our families so that they know about the PEBT coming up. Those will be going out this week and next week as well. Once the cards are distributed, we're going to be working very closely with Jobs and Family Services on a protocol for identifying, again, if households did not get their benefit, how we can possibly mobilize some of our school district administrators and community partners and homeless liaisons to make sure that we identify those households and make sure that they get their benefits provided. I did want to touch upon the community eligibility provision. Again, if your child does attend a school that is on the community eligibility provision, or CEP is what else it's called, that means that all of the students in that particular school are receiving a no-cost breakfast and lunch, even if that particular student is not on SNAP benefits. Usually those schools are not collecting applications. Those schools use different data points, if you will, to determine their level of poverty. And I just wanted to reinforce that if your child or you know of a child that attends a CEP school, that child will be getting the PEBT benefit as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
You're
Bridget.
welcome.
I'm gonna invite our Cincinnati Public Schools folks, Jessica and Francis, to go ahead and share what you're doing in your district.
Thanks, Rachel, for having us. We're really excited about this program too. In Cincinnati Public Schools alone, it means that almost 30,000 of our scholars are going to be receiving this benefit. So we are extremely excited that this is going to be an additional opportunity to the meal program we are already operating throughout the summer until August 14th to give our families an additional benefit to make sure that our kids stay nourished when they're not inside the school building with us. On Tuesday, on May 26th, we actually sent out a robocall and we did an email blast to every single one of our families that qualify for this EBT additional benefit. In our district, we have 56 schools that are community eligibility provision, which means all the students that were enrolled in those 56 schools are going to be receiving this EBT. And in our other 9 schools, we went through and submitted all the information that have the students that are on free and reduced meal eligibility via either online or paper application, or who are already directly certified through SNAP benefits, or are homeless, migrant, or foster children. So we've already submitted this information back at the beginning of May. It was submitted with the address information that we had on file. So what information was uploaded to our school district on file as of the first week of May is what was submitted to Ohio Job and Family Services. So if there was an address change or something that happened after that time frame, or an address change that changed in the interim, then this EBT card would probably be going to the address that we supplied the first week of May. That's one of the things that we have to rely on our families, making sure they keep updated information with us so we can provide this benefit to them. I do want to make sure I piggyback, and again, because I'm seeing the question pop up a lot, that school districts are still providing, most school districts are still providing summer food service program in their area. And I know that ODE has a map online of all the available meal distribution sites. CPS, we have 23 sites throughout our city that are offering both breakfast and lunch for every day to our scholars. Sometimes it's multiple meals. For example, if a family would come on a Monday or a Wednesday, they're going to get 4 meals instead of just the 2 meals. We also have a tremendous network of community partners who are also providing additional meal sites to what CPS is doing. It was our goal when the emergency closure happened back in March that no CPS student would have a food distribution hub more than a mile from their home. So if you go to the ODE website, or if you are in Cincinnati, if you go to the cincinnati.gov/COVID page, you'll be able to see an actual map of every single meal distribution site in our city limits as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions. And I am just, again, really grateful for this program for our scholars.
Great. Francis, did you have anything you wanted to add? We can't hear you, sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Of course, I still have a big note in front of me telling me to unmute myself, right? So Jessica and I work very closely together. I'm in the Cincinnati Schools Communications Department, and so it's very important that we stay in contact with each other to make sure that we are updating our website and social media channels with any new information, or just as Jessica referenced, we just started into the summer feeding program. And so, of course, we are using the social media channels to spread that information. We do have 30,000 followers. So, of course, it's a great tool for us to communicate that information. We also, one of the things that I think is really different that we're doing is each week we are updating our website and showing our public how many meals are being fed to date. So as of right now, we are well over 200,000. And again, that's to Jessica's credit and her team as to what they are doing and serving these meals Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We have had also great luck working with our local media, and they continue to help us, again, spread the word. Jessica mentioned about how we are working with other organizations to make sure that there are meals within a mile of someone's home. So we had a local channel do a story about that. So between local media, social media, and our website, those are the channels that we are using to keep our families and community informed about what we are doing. I invite anyone to go to our website at cps-k12.org. And you will see a big billboard on the homepage, and that will take you to the other information that we have listed as well. Thank you.
And Rachel, if I can step in, there is a question right now from one of our participants that asked if data is matched with the student's home district or matched with the school the child attends. And it would be from the school the child attends. If a child resides within Cincinnati Public Schools, I don't have access to their free and reduced eligibility or their home address, so I would not be able to submit anything to Job and Family Services. It'd be the responsibility of the school they attend to submit that information.
Awesome, thank you. It's so great to have you guys here, and I'm sure there will be more questions pop up. Right, I'm gonna jump in a minute to our immigration topic and get Lisa in here from Cleveland Legal Aid, but first I'm gonna try to answer a few more questions that I saw come in. One question was about adding a list of community eligibility schools to be able to share. So we do have a list, and I know Department of Education probably has an even more updated list than I do. So that's something that we can share through the Ohio PEBT website, I think, so that you can look up and see what schools are under that, because I know you might not realize if you live in one of those schools. And then there have also been questions I see about again, private schools or charter schools and whether those are included. And that is dependent on whether that school participates in the National School Lunch Program and is part of that program. So if it's a private school, for instance, that does not have a meal program and all children just pay for the meal, then they're probably not part of that program and won't be part of PEBT. But Bridget, do you want to add anything on that question?
Yeah, just to solidify, if your child attends a school that's on the National School Lunch Program, and we actually have a list on our website that I can make sure that we get a connection to if you're interested in just making sure that your child is attending a school on the National School Lunch Program, we'll make sure that we provide that as part of the resources at the end of the webinar.
Awesome, thank you. And another question was around sort of how the benefit amount was calculated. So the federal government allows for PEBT to be calculated at $5.70 per day for each day that schools were closed because of the pandemic. So in Ohio, we've averaged school closing dates to 53 days, which is basically mid-March to the end of May. And so that's how the number $302 for families who get the full benefit, and children who get the full benefit, was calculated. And for those who are just getting the April and May portion, it's like $239. So that's how that was calculated. And another great question is about sort of the rules that go along with using an EBT card and what foods you can and can't purchase. I know that's familiar to some, but not maybe to some who are new to PEBT. So that's another piece that we're gonna share outreach materials on so people feel confident shopping with the PEBT card. But it's basically all groceries are available, just not prepared hot foods, toiletries, other things that are not essentially cold groceries, but we'll go through that and have those materials available for folks to share with the community. Anything else from our education partners before we move on to the question around immigrant children? Okay, great. Well, I'm going to share my screen again and introduce Lisa from Cleveland Legal Aid.
Hi, good morning. Thanks, everyone. I really appreciate having a few minutes to talk to everyone about some issues that I think immigrant children and families will have about using PEBT. And I also want to thank everyone, of course, for all this important work that you're all doing to make sure that people are, being able to be fed during this really terrifying time, I think, for a lot of people. So as Ms. Cahill is getting the slides ready, I can just, thank you, to give a brief background about what exactly would like to share information about. I am an immigration attorney, so I help people with their immigration statuses and cases. I work with the Legal Aid Society of Cleveland, so we provide free civil legal services to people in 5 counties in Northeast Ohio who qualify for our services. And that can include people who are not U.S. citizens and people who are not lawful permanent residents. And lawful permanent residents are people who have green cards. Those 2 terms can be used interchangeably. So many children in our service area will be eligible for PEBT, like they'll get it now, regardless of their immigration status, as the other panelists have mentioned. And that includes children of immigrants and children who are immigrants themselves. So I'll be sharing all of this information and messaging with them as well. So like I said, during this part, I want to talk about not about how the children and the families will be using PEBT. That's not really, like my area of expertise, but I'll be talking about how using PEBT might affect the immigration cases or statuses of those families who will get it. I understand people have maybe already been getting a lot of questions and concerns about this topic, so I'm hoping to share some information that you all might be able to use to explain or answer some of those questions to specifically the group of people who are the children who are immigrants or part of immigrant families. And then I just wanted to mention briefly my contact information and how to contact Legal Aid of Cleveland is on one of the last slides in my presentation. So please feel free to refer to that if you want to follow up with me or with us. But now to actually get into the actual concern for many immigrants and their families is this issue about public charge. I am assuming that many, if not all, people have heard about this term or about this concern in the past several months. So I just want to explain what exactly it is and when exactly it comes into play in someone's immigration case or status. So in general, if we go back to the macro kind of consideration about someone who is not a U.S. citizen or does not already have a green card, this is the group of people we're talking about in terms of public charge. In general, a lot of people who are, people around the world might want to come to the United States and live here permanently, not visit, not work temporarily, not go to school, but live here permanently. And the way to do that is to apply for a green card or for lawful permanent status. And this public charge comes into play when someone wants to do that. So they haven't done it yet, but they want to. In general, when people want to apply for permanent resident status or for their green card to live permanently in the United States, they have to prove to the U.S. government that they are admissible, or that there's someone that the U.S. government thinks it's okay to live here, to have the privilege of living here on a permanent basis. So public charge, there's a long list of rules that someone has to prove that they're admissible, and it's found in that part of the law that I mentioned in my slide, INA 212A. So it's a long list, but public charge is one part of that long list of things that people have to prove that they are so that they can be admitted to live in the United States permanently. Some of the other grounds are things like you can't be like a murderer, you can't be a terrorist, you can't have like benefited from selling child pornography. Like there's a whole long list, but the public charge ground, the idea is that the US government does not want to let people live in the United States for a long time, that they would have to support economically or through the healthcare system. So basically it's like, we don't want to admit poor people in, that'll be a drain on the US economy. So that part of the or like the public charge ground of inadmissibility, or it's been a part of the long list of things that we want people to prove since 1882. That's been a part of our law for a long time. But what is new is the way that the government determines whether someone is going to be a public charge has changed recently. I won't get into how it used to be determined in the past, but now the US government considers a long variety of factors about whether someone is going to be a public charge, and if they are going to be a public charge, that means they won't be able to live here permanently. So again, that's the kind of context we're talking about. So the concern is that people have, I think, is if they use PEBT, will the government think that they are a public charge, that they're not, able to support themselves when they apply for their permanent residency? So for the next slide then, that's the question that we're trying to answer. And so if you get the question, will a child or a family's use of PEBT automatically make them a public charge? And the answer is no. That the use of PEBT by itself will not cause the US government to automatically think, no, this person's a public charge, they won't be able to support themselves. So hopefully that is an easy enough answer. But the reasons for that are a variety of them that I've listed in the slide. As I mentioned, the public charge test considers many different factors, such as a person's age, their health, whether they have health care, their family status, whether they are educated, how well they're able to speak English, if they have assets, if they own property, a million other things. As a quick side complaint, it's like this public charge thing takes me like hundreds of pages and hundreds of hours to prepare because I have to talk about all these different factors. So the test is not whether does someone have PEBT? No, that's not the only thing that people are concerned about. The concern is whether people are using public benefits, which might be proof that they could be public charges. But as you can see, that's the point that's highlighted in blue. Children nutrition programs such as PEBT, which is a replacement for school lunch and breakfast, and things like food banks, are available to everyone regardless of immigration status, and they are not a factor considered in the public charge test. The list of factors that are, or the public benefits that are part of the public charge test are found in 8 CFR 212.21b, which is on that slide. So if families do receive some public benefits like TANF, SSI, SNAP, other things that could be a part of, that could tend to make someone be considered a public charge, but PEBT won't. And in general, the decision about whether someone will be a public charge or not involves many different factors, as I mentioned. I think the overall message that I would say, and then I'll give, pass it along to the other panelists who will be talking about actually messaging, would be: 1, families should definitely use PEBT if they're eligible for it and they get the card in the mail. 2, they should not be afraid to use it. And 3, they should talk to an immigration attorney about this consideration about their immigration case or status separately from deciding, whether to use the PEBT or not. I am sure that I have used up much more of my time, so I won't take any questions, but please feel free to contact me, or I'll stick around to the end of the presentation, and I'm happy to answer questions at that time. So thank you, everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lisa. And I'm going to turn it right over to Veronica Dahlberg from Ola, Ohio, who can speak to kind of on the ground need for and understanding of PEBT in the community.
Thank you, Rachel, and thank you, Lisa, for laying all that out. Even before COVID-19 hit, our community, the Latino community, was already suffering from higher poverty rates than the rest of the people in Ohio. So this program is extremely important and has the potential to really give more access to food to Latino families and children. And I very much appreciate the inclusivity of the way the program was designed. So thank you for that. I thought I could just share quickly some of the things to keep in mind when trying to reach out to the Hispanic community for the reasons that Lisa just mentioned. There will be a lot of fear, a lot of misinformation about using this card, and we don't want there to be because we know it's needed. Ohio, in general, is an agricultural state. It's one of the biggest industries here. So we have many, many thousands of farm workers who live in the small rural towns of Ohio. It's one thing to reach the Latinos in the urban centers that have long established Latino organizations that can get messaging and things out. And that in itself is difficult too, but it's even more challenging when you have people living in these far-flung little towns and they're working very long hours in the fields. And so they're not really listening, or they're not on Facebook, they're not getting information. They're working 7 days a week as mission critical workers. And even as mission critical workers in the fields, those are low wage jobs and they still need access to food. And so it's very important to make that extra concerted effort. And I hope to, by mentioning these things, that the outreach strategies can be put in place that will be effective and effectively reach, because it's not just about doing a flyer and posting it somewhere. It's going to take a real concerted effort. Besides the people that are working in the fields, and I'm talking about the nurseries, but we have the dairy farms, the horse farms, we have, you know, the packing plants for the apples and things, and then soon to be the vegetables. We need to help this community get access. We have also another scenario, which is our restaurant industry and service, the hospitality industry, which was really hard hit with layoffs. And so we have many, many thousands, as many as 25% of workers in those industries are Latino here in Ohio who've lost their jobs, have families to support. We could reach them through the restaurants themselves. Most of the network of Mexican restaurants, for example, know one another, and just by reaching and spreading through there would be a great way to reach this segment of our Latino community. And just keep in mind too that as I was mentioning, you know, the poverty level in Ohio, I believe, was 15% that I last checked, but for the Latino community, it's almost double, even before COVID hit. We have over 100,000 children in K through 12 who are Hispanic, who come from these families. I know nationally 25% of K through 12 students are Latino. And the other scenario that we've been seeing as COVID has been hitting minority communities hard, what happens when somebody comes up with a COVID positive individual, they do the contact tracing, and it's usually the co-workers, friends, families are put into quarantine for 2 weeks. So we have many, many, many people in quarantine. These are unpaid 2 weeks of work. Employers are only willing to pay if you're actually positive, but not in quarantine. And so people are very worried when you're already living on the economic margins. What happens now when you're getting 2 weeks pay cut? So this is really, again, a very helpful program. And I think, you know, the way to reach the families here is through organizations like Ola. Of course, we're very happy to help with this very important effort and just support and make sure the messaging, because there will be a lot of fear, and it should not be underestimated what that fear is going to be, because the reasons that Lisa said. We have very aggressive policies right now, immigration policies that are designed to detain as many people and deport as many people as possible. So we do have over 50,000 people right now with immigration cases in the state of Ohio that are going to be worried about using this card in their families and how it's going to impact their case. So just some things to think about. It's important to have safe spaces. Ola will be utilizing our text network, our Facebook, and so on, and we're here to help with whatever is needed to reach this community.
Thank you so much, Veronica. We're so happy to have you and really relying on your expertise to get us to reach as many children as we can. I'm going to turn now to Emmanuel from Ethiopian Social Services in Columbus to tell us how they're helping to spread the word.
There you go. I muted myself now. Thank you very much, Rachel. My name is Emmanuel Merdassa. I work for ETSS as Director of Youth Services. For those of you who are new to ETSS among our audience, ETSS is a non-profit organization based here in Columbus, Ohio, serving immigrants and refugees and other low-income families live in Franklin and surrounding counties. ETSS provides year-round adult and youth services to support immigrants and refugee families to adapt and acculturate to their new home. Saying that, our focus on communication and disseminating information to vast majority of our immigrants and refugee families. At the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, when the schools, school district, workplaces, and from school district to school of their children, school principal, city, county, and state, releasing different information, our immigrants and refugee families are very overwhelmed. It's not just for immigrants and refugees who do not speak English language. It was overwhelming for all of us who speaks the language. And most of our immigrants and refugee families were not getting up-to-date information in their language, in the way they understand on time, because of the language and culture barrier. Even if the slogan where we are all in together, a lot of families felt they're left behind. I hope this is not the point at this time. We have to learn from our experience and do some correction and make sure, as we did as ATSS, our goal have to be to make sure no family will be. So one thing I would like to share with our audience and make sure everybody understands is, as we all know, Ohio is a welcoming state. And I thought that living here, I first moved to Cleveland, and since then I moved to Columbus, Ohio, and lived here for over 20 years now. And there are several languages spoken here in Ohio beside the language most schools and public services recognize. And a good number of these languages are not written language. A lot of immigrants or refugees and their family parents are not reading or writing on their native language. So the normal way of communication we have, creating flyers, translated into different language, and spreading, it's very helpful. I'm not saying it is not helpful, it's very helpful, but it doesn't reach to everybody. So that is where no family left behind will be the point. I would like to share some of the things we're doing at ETSS to make sure all the families, communities at grassroots level getting this information. This is very, very good information. This is information most families need, have been looking for, excited, and do not want to miss. It's very fortunate at ETSS. Only at ETSS, we have over 25 languages that are spoken. And we have a wonderful, diverse staff from all backgrounds from around the world. And we built a good way of communication with the families we've been serving. We created, for example, a parent engagement format. We call it Parent Advisory Committee. Most of our families, they have a good connection to the technology these days to reach out to their families back home using apps. Those apps are free apps to make international call for free. And they can do a video chat. I can imagine when somebody from a remote part of Africa or other part of the world is called you via those apps and talk to you. And we use those advantage to help those families who speak not written language or those families who do not write or read on their native language. And we have the Viber groups, we have WhatsApp groups. And we create a video of the information we want to share or disseminate, or a voice message, even a photo message, and share it via Viber or WhatsApp to the communities. The video, as I said, and the voice message platform help community members with language barriers, especially those who do not read and write in their native language. And those rare language, where those rare language do not have a written format. And it helps a lot. When these parents get this information, we all know word of mouth is another way the parents or families are using the words or the information disseminated among immigrants and refugees. And nowadays, what we did at ETSS is we start a virtual after-school program where the kids are tech savvies and where we are at their home. And we got that opportunity to engage the parents. Parents are talking to our bilingual assistants face-to-face, asking questions. And those are the wonderful opportunity to spread the word of PEBT. And I hope this is what we can be very excited about and share this information as specific as should be and reach out to all families who needs it. Thank you, Rachel.
Yes. Thank you so much, and really for giving us that framing of, of not leaving any child behind. I really think that's powerful, and I think you gave me a lot of food for thought in terms of creativity that's needed to really reach deep into these communities. So I'm going to give our last few minutes to Jory Novotny from the Ohio Association of Food Banks to talk about where these resources and more that I hope we can build out can be found so we can work together.
Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, I know we're coming up on time, so I will keep this really brief. We just worked in collaboration at the Ohio Association of Food Banks with a lot of the statewide advocates and local advocates on this call to develop a website just to house this information. We used some charitable funding to do so. We're so pleased to have it available just to include some answers to FAQs, just a place where everybody can go to look for the basics for a lot of the questions that all of you are asking. And I think a lot of great questions have been asked during this webinar that can be added to the website to provide further clarification. There's also resources on the website for partners to use for outreach. So I would encourage, yep, there it is. So we have a homepage here that just answers some of the basics. There's a tab that has FAQs. And then the partners tab, which is highlighted right now, has some of the outreach resources that we've developed so far. We're hoping to get a lot more up there, and happy to work with anyone on what translations they might need. If you're not able to translate on your own, we're happy to work with a paid service to get that done as quickly as possible. There's some social media graphics, social media copy, outreach flyers to reach out to your retailers. So especially for those you know, retailers that may not be part of like the Ohio Grocers Association that may serve local communities in their store that can accept benefits. You know, I think it's great to work on educating them now on what they can expect, what the card's going to look like, and how it's going to function, so that we keep that transaction as smooth and welcoming as possible for families when they're going to shop. And I'm also really excited to officially be able to tell everyone that by the end of the weekend, certainly no later than Tuesday, the governor's office and the First Lady are actually working on a public service announcement, which will include not only First Lady DeWine, but also Slider and Mr. Red from the Reds and the Indians, and they will just be talking about PEBT to make sure that families are aware. I think that it'll be great for, you know, destigmatizing some of the concerns that we've all talked about today, to make sure that people know this is a great opportunity for families and for Ohio. And so the governor's press team is actually planning on highlighting that PSA during their presser on Tuesday. So please tune in and watch. It'll be a great opportunity to get some more of that word out. And I will stop there, Rachel, and turn it back to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jory, for all you've been doing, and that's really exciting. I will make sure I tune in to the press conference on Tuesday. I'm going to just leave some contact information up for follow-up questions. Like I said, I will personally make sure I go through all the questions we've gotten and make sure they get answered, and we will post those answers on the website, on the PEBT website, and also on Advocates for Ohio's Future. If you want to get involved with the outreach and education effort that Jory mentioned, that a lot of organizations are part of, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm a Rachel Cahill consultant for the Center for Community Solutions. My email is here, and so is Jory's. And if you have individual questions about PEBT eligibility, you can direct those to the JFS customer service information that we shared earlier. So I'm gonna go ahead and let Kelsey wrap us up, and we will follow up with questions. But thank you all so much for joining us, and to all our speakers for sharing your expertise.
Thanks so much, Rachel. And just a reminder, we will be sending the full slide deck as well as a recording of today's webinar to all who registered today. So check your inboxes on Monday. We'll also be sure to include a link to the website that Jory talked about, and also links to the flyers and other resources. So keep an eye out for that email. And thanks again for joining us today. We really appreciate your time. And please enjoy your weekend, and thank you for your attention and advocacy on this issue. Have a great one. And thank you very much to all of our speakers.